And most critically, because it's C++ is in many industries that already have C++ code bases interacting with these things. So you will not convince, I don't know, banks or whatever other thing.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Comet. Have you ever wondered what does astrophysics have in common with the software running in your car, your coffee machine, and NASA's internal tools? In this episode, I had the chance to talk to Cristian. Cristian is a research and development principal manager at the Qt company. He leads the team behind Qt for Python, known as PySide, the official Python bindings for the Qt framework. He also leads the Qt core team and a newly announced project called Qt Bridges, aims to introduce more languages to the Qt ecosystem. He has a PhD in astrophysics, but decided to leave academia and move into the software industry, eventually joining the Qt company in 2018. Beyond his day job, Cristian is a vice chair of the Python Software Foundation and a serial community organizer, involved in EuroPython, PyCon US, PyLadiesConf, the translation of the Python documentation into Spanish, and PyPI moderation. Where do you work and how does it relate to open source?
I currently work at the Qt company for a long time, more than 7 years, And well, it is a company, but has this nice feature in its core that it's based on an open source project. So Qt is a framework that was introduced, was developed like in the late 80s. Like I think that it was the first release was in 1991, and it was solving a real problem back then. That was having a UI framework that you could have similar code compile it in different operating systems and then getting similar results in the sense of like having the native look and feel. So mostly because of Linux, Windows, and Mac OS back then, they were really different, and there was not no like you needed to have literally 3 different applications for that. Well, there were other options, but anyway. And the idea was an open source project since the beginning, solving a real problem. And folks that created a new company, and then this company kept evolving, but at some point got acquired by another company, but they always kept the open source bit in this essence. So it was acquired by Nokia. And maybe you remember Nokia. And then everything was great with Nokia, then everything was not great with Nokia. And then they sold, as far as I know, the rights of the license, the commercial license of it, because it was always like open source and commercial as well, but with different licenses, to a different company called DJ. And then it was mature enough, and then their own company kind of started. So even if it's called the Qt company, that means that it's a company that has the rights to sell the commercial license, but it still is open source in the store.
Right. And what language is the framework written in? Or what technologies in general do you use?
That's the tricky part, right? So it is a framework because it's so old. Back then, it was written in the most popular language, the most complete battery includes language, which was C++. And considering the size of the framework and how it has been evolving, is very difficult nowadays to kind of have a complete rewrite that we have seen recently with new languages, like for example Rust. People is rewriting things in new languages is almost impossible. And most critically, because it's C++ is in many industries that already have C++ code bases interacting with these things. So you will not convince, I don't know, banks or whatever other thing to, okay, can you rewrite everything so we can do so? Yeah, so it's C++ at its core, but there are a few bindings around.
And how is it working with a bindings related project? So basically, you need knowledge of C and knowledge of Python in order to be able to contribute, right?
Yes. So with Qt, in the Qt company, we have the official set of bindings is called PySide. There is another set of binding called PyQt that might be widely known, but it's a different company. But I can talk to you about the PySide at least. So in PySide, there are the bindings for Python, so exposing this C++ framework to Python. But we needed, as a technology, first a binding generator. So we have our own binding generator that, fun enough, it comes from a different set of binding, very old for the Java language. But we took the essence of it, started to change the functionality, and then you need to, on a daily basis, be exposed to C++ code that is doing something, and then it gets generated into some C code to make it compatible with CPython. And after that, you compile it and have something that is importable from Python. So then, of course, the test and everything goes in Python. So you need to have this understanding of modifying the core, generating the bindings, compiling the bindings, and then using it from Python to check if something works. So it's tricky.
So how often do you get contributions from people on the internet?
Yeah, on Qt, I think it's very difficult nowadays. We still have like a stable inflow of contribution from different companies and other open source enthusiasts. But I personally have seen a decrease in the C++ users around the world, like new users. So getting new contributors is something that we don't see very often, maybe a few per month. And sometimes people also get confused, right? Because if they know Python, they want to contribute to PySide, then how they do it? Most of the time, they need to contribute things through C++. So it might be tricky for them. So for solving that, we have been trying to push in the past in different events like Hacktoberfest, for example, to have people contributing other interesting things for the project, like new examples, new tests, or even new Python functionality that we have on top. Because as it's a binding, it's a one-on-one thing of Python, we do have a lot of features that are Python only. So people could contribute to those things in a simpler way, kind of compared to C++. Because
And you said that every year you have less contributions to C++, but I wonder what is the impact of LLMs? Because LLMs do help people understand code and write code. And I wonder, have you seen maybe people being able to contribute or to read once LLMs started being popular?
Yeah, I think that we had a few cases where people was contributing fixes that once the experts on those fields were checking was, this makes no sense. What do you mean? Like, and then we noticed that it was generated with LLMs. But I don't neglect the fact that, of course, those things are very useful for you to understand. I'm not a user myself, not because I don't like it or anything, but I never had the need. But I did a few tries with a couple of my models out there in order for them to explain a few concepts that within the Qt framework, and it was very accurate. So if you want to learn at least the idea, the implementation things, I believe that it would be very beneficial for new developers that are not exposed to this old language to understand how things work on top. But I haven't seen like people getting help from LLMs to submit the contributions, to be honest. But maybe they are, and I didn't see it.
So it sounds like the most challenging part of contributing to Qt is basically C++, right? Are there
I would
any
say
other
so.
challenges, or is it only this one?
No, well, the other challenge, as I said, is that, and this is, I'm not bragging, it's the reality. Qt is used widely, like from coffee machines into, more advanced at NASA, for example, they're using Qt everywhere for internal tools. Most of the major other tech companies, I will not say any names of tech companies, but also have a lot of Qt within even some electric cars that you have. So modifying something has a lot of implications in what is going on in the world. I mean, C++ is still, believe it or not, of course, runs the world. So we do have need to have a very strict process. So it's not as easy like, I want to just maybe add a new functionality. Maybe not, but fixing bugs is something that we value the most. So fixing a bug of a super old framework is very difficult. Maybe you know it even from Python that if you go to the issue tracker and you see the oldest bugs, nobody has managed to fix it. So it's very rare for someone new to try to jump there and try to fix the bug. So yeah, it's tricky, but still possible. We still get contribution from externals.
And how can people get involved if they would like to contribute? What's the best place where they can find more information about the project?
This is a good question because for many years it was pain point for people that they didn't know what to follow, what to read to know to start. So we managed to do something very simple in the URL of the project. So the open source side of things. So it's Qt, so qt-project.org, and there we have a little text box with saying like, oh, you want to submit a patch. First step, do this. Second step, do this. But of course, that is the process, not like guiding people how to solve problems, or at least the mechanism. Because there is one feature that might be very different to other projects that you might know, which is we are not on GitHub. We have our own instance of Gerrit. Gerrit is a different, Git tracking kind of platform thingy. It's used by the Chromium project, for example. So that's kind of like the first wall for contributors to get it.
And I wonder, what is the reasoning behind it that you're not on GitHub?
Historical reasons.
Historical reasons,
Because
right.
before there were other web interfaces for Git that we were using, Well, before even I think before it was SVN as well. But things were moving out. But yeah, I mean, now we see that every single project is on GitHub, but moving this huge beast of a project to a new, because everyone is there, it's super tricky. We have mirrors in GitHub. People get confused sometimes. They want to contribute there, but those only mirrors. So that people need to still let with the. But if you don't know it, I really invite you to try to check it out. I mean, Gary, I prefer the approach. In a nutshell, is that you always work on the same patch. So you're always like committing and amending the same commit. So you have versions. So then you merge the final version. So it's not like GitHub that you have many pull requests, then you stash.
Right. And what does the name Qt stand for? Because when I heard it for the first time, I thought it was cute as in CUTE, but actually it's QT.
So
What does it mean?
the story goes that as far as I remember, there was a different framework, window manager for Windows, I think, or for Mac, I don't remember, but it was called XT. That's the name. And one of the authors said that in the font that he was using, he really liked it how the Q was rendered. So he took that thing and they said, okay, QT, and then the name, the rest is history. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.